Hi everyone, it's Haley. So in this video, we're going to talk a little bit about the upcoming new moon in Aries on the 21st of March. Again, kind of talking about some of the archetypal themes that I'm seeing in the chart that I'm looking at over here for this new moon. And then also at the end, we'll pull some tarot cards, maybe get some messages that way in terms of the archetypes, the themes that we might encounter in the coming weeks. So the new moon in Aries is coming on the heels of the spring equinox, which is going to be just the day before. So we're ushering in spring, at least in the northern hemisphere. And it's a very fresh time. Aries as an archetype is the start of the astrological new year. It's a cardinal sign in terms of triplicity, so in terms of the modalities of cardinality, the fixed, and then the mutable archetypes. And so it's, again, cardinal, it's a fire sign, it's kind of that initial spark that gets things going, that kind of creative potentiation, ideation, kind of going in and starting things, initiating things, initiating us into a new season. And so this new moon, the sun and the moon are going to be at 0 degrees of Aries. Again, kind of really feeling this kind of fresh energy, this kind of invigorating inspiration, seeing a lot of potentials. And in this new moon chart, we have a Gemini rising chart, which means that Gemini is going to be ascending over the eastern horizon at the exact time of this lunation. And so that makes the chart ruler, the planetary ruler of this lunation, Mercury, which is also in Aries. We have this big Aries stellium of the sun, the moon, Mercury, the asteroid Chiron, as well as Jupiter, all in Aries in the 11th house. And Mercury, which is the chart ruler, is squaring quite, not by degree, but it's pretty tightly squaring Mars, who is currently finishing up his transit of Gemini. And this Mercury squaring Mars energy can be very hot-headed communication, lots of ideas coming through and kind of feeling like maybe people are getting in your way of kind of asserting yourself and mapping these new terrains for your life. And it can be kind of this frustrated energy of people kind of getting in your way, and that could kind of lead to verbal conflicts, anger coming out around self-assertion, feeling blocked or inhibited in some way. And so, especially because the lunation is taking place in the 11th house, our friends, beneficial groups, alliances, the future, it's kind of seeing a goal and wanting to go in that direction, and then having some sort of block come up in terms of just the logistics of having to operate with other people in a social environment. So yeah, that is quite interesting. Also in this lunation, Venus is conjunct the north node of the moon in the 12th house in Taurus, and kind of themes around women, the goddess, the earth coming up around kind of maybe more shadowy aspects of that, and especially because it's in the 12th house that's referred to as the house of undoing. That can be kind of our blind spots, and it's pretty tightly squaring Pluto in the 8th house, so some sort of death cycle being marked here around women, kind of, or feminine themes of the psyche that all of us have. So yeah, that is quite interesting. So I'm going to start shuffling, getting some cards. Yeah, and so we have this big pileup in Aries, and then some energy right around it in the next sign, Taurus, and then the previous sign, Pisces. Okay. So there's this big concentration of energy in this one area of our life. So if you look at your natal chart and look to the area ruled by Aries, you can kind of see there's getting a lot of action infused into this area of our life. As this kind of springtime, new beginning energy. Okay, we'll start with these. Okay. Wow, okay. So the Fool came up, which is very apt is the word for Aries in terms of kind of, you can see this person is very hopeful, kind of has this like traveler's bag over his shoulders, traveling with his dog, and he's kind of prancing over to this cliff ledge that he's not seeing. And the kind of the magic of the Fool, it's the 0, and it's the first major arcana card, but it's funny that the lunation is happening at 0 degrees of Aries, and we have the Fool coming up, which is number 0. Kind of, yeah, this is a great time to seed some, as all new moons are, but especially as this is the first lunation of the astrological new year. Kind of this playful curiosity energy, if we can channel this kind of Mars-Mercury energy into kind of this playful, kind of explorative, learning something new, going somewhere new, exploring our environment in a new way, that can kind of channel that really, what could be kind of a powerful spark into a more constructive, productive territory versus like getting in an email fight with someone or something. Like there's more constructive ways to deal with this, and you can see like the sun is out, there's optimism, there's hope being infused into this situation. I don't know if you guys have noticed it, but I've noticed a real kind of energetic tone shift. I think it's been since like Saturn went into Pisces on the 7th. There's just kind of this like reshuffling of priorities, and kind of like the old ways of doing things aren't working anymore. I've heard other astrologers kind of talking about it in terms of like a kind of existential moment of like, what's the point of doing things that we've previously been doing? It's just such a big shift having Saturn out of its signs where it does really well, Capricorn, Aquarius, and into Pisces. There's this really interesting new direction that we're going in, and maybe we don't know all of the difficulties or all the logistics yet, but we can just have some hope, which is very, very nice. And then kind of on the heels of that, we also have the 8 of Wands upright, which is a card of that's really supporting progress and movement and growth, and kind of just like the initiative, the spark is there, and then it's also being supported by if you have like a new business idea, or this is kind of the energy of like joining a club, like the neighborhood basketball and a pottery club, a class, something like that, like trying something new can kind of invigorate or kind of bring this fresh, like opening up the windows, putting things out in the clothesline type of energy in lots of areas of our life. And then we also have the 10 of Pentacles upright and the King of Pentacles reversed. This is really interesting. I feel like this might be having to do with some sort of reevaluation of the material substance of our lives in a way, and kind of thinking about the goals that we've set for ourselves. Are they actually what we desire, or are they just kind of like what some sort of authority figure, or what we think we want, or kind of what we assume, or we don't check in to see if our goals are actually in line with what we actually desire and want to create, and hopefully in a way that also is of service to others and is not, because the Aries energy can be very self-focused, which isn't a bad thing, but very kind of wrapped up in this really tight construct of a self. And so with the 10 of Pentacles, kind of, can what we build support others, support our communities? How can we be in communities that in ways that honors ourselves and our individuality and our authenticity, which is kind of a buzzword right now, in a way that we can bring our gifts forward and give and receive in a really balanced way. Let's see. And also, I will say, because Pluto also does, the word means riches or kind of like treasure, and having that trine Venus in the 12th house, there might be some sort of inner discovery of inner riches and fulfillment coming from kind of a deeper psychological level that we don't normally access or touch on a daily basis. And so this is kind of leading some confirmation or some support to the idea that the new things that we embark on will bring success later on, but maybe not in the kind of outmoded way that we think about success, in terms of like having a huge house with lots of wealth in this certain way. And then lastly, the last card that came up is the 8 of Swords. Interesting. Yeah, I will say the lunation, which it's also interesting because Mercury, which again is the chart ruler of this lunation and is conjunct the moon and the sun, is emerging from the beams of the sun after its cazimi. And so it's kind of this moment of revelation or coming into the light about something or matters kind of, but it's also interesting because Neptune, which is not very, the word is not clarity. It's kind of more obscuring and complicating and blurring boundaries and making kind of hazy and casting this kind of veil over things, is also, is at 25 degrees of Pisces. So just 5 degrees away from the lunation. And so there's this kind of energy of simultaneous clarity and clarifying and solidifying, and then like the opposite, like deconstructing, complicating, kind of this like magical, again, I think I mentioned this in the last video, but themes around death and birth simultaneously. And like, as you can see in this card, this person is kind of bound and in this kind of precarious place. So kind of this kind of tricky energy again around the mind. I feel like a lot of stuff around the mind is coming up. I think I mentioned this in the last video too, around the quality of the mind, anxiety, kind of this mental tension energy that if we kind of open to a new way of being, there is the potential to kind of let go of a lot of weight here and just kind of embrace a new season, not in a way that denies mental pain, but I feel like if we can be okay not knowing exactly how things are going to be, that will kind of diffuse a lot of this kind of heaviness of this like kind of urge to have a 5-year plan and have all these details at this time. Can be more like a time of ideation and exploration. And if we have a really high need to know all of the details at this moment, it could be a little bit tricky. So yeah, I hope, feel free to comment down below any themes that you're noticing around as we step into the springtime and the Aries new moon. Yeah, it's definitely a lot of fresh energy coming in that feels quite different than what we've seen in the past many years. So yeah, thanks for watching. If you would like to chat about your beautiful natal chart, all the gifts that you've come in with, feel free to reach out at projectvenusrising@gmail.com. I'll put that in the description below. And yeah, have a beautiful day.